Matthew, welcome back to the show. We are honored to be joined today by celebrity guest Mr. Ken Silva, who people have recently seen on the Tucker Carlson show. Ken, how are you? Welcome back to the show. It's good to see both of you guys.
Oh, I'm doing very well. It's good to see you too, Jason.
Matt, how are you?
I'm good. I'm disorientated. I've just got off the plane, as I said earlier, from doing some work, but it's good to be here. So if I seem a bit out of it, please forgive me today, but it's good to be here.
It's good to see you. You know, people are going to remember the last time we all got together. We were talking about the panic in Bethel Park. That's something that you've been discussing, and Matt, with Ken on your excellent Substack, the Commendable Commotion Substack. I want to make sure people know they can reach you over there. And also, we're going to be having a sponsor exclusive segment right after this where people are going to be able to join us on all of these different Substack channels. People are going to be able to watch that on substack.com/@Ken Silva, commendablecommotion.substack.com, and on all the Crowdsource the Truth sponsorship channels on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsource the truth. Before we get underway with the new information that we're going to be talking about today, Ken, give us a little bit of an overview. How did this come together with the great Tucker Carlson interview? How is the book going? How's everything going at Headline USA? And of course, don't forget, people can follow Ken on X at JD Cashless. Fill us in.
Well, I appreciate the interest. So it's crazy how time flies. It's like 1 month since I published the book. And my friend and publisher, Scott Horton, who had previously been on Tucker's show, I guess sent Tucker a copy. And I'm also working with his a crew that he hired out to make a documentary on the Oklahoma City bombing. And so the producer on that working for Tucker, Scooter Downey, also recommended me. So I had, two good voices in my corner, and I got called. Yeah, like I said, almost like 4 weeks ago, I got called and booked on Tucker, and I just wasn't saying anything about it because I didn't want to jinx it. And they flew me out to Maine. What is it now? To 10 days ago. Had breakfast with Tucker. He's a very, very nice guy, high energy, operates on a very high frequency, just immediately asking all kinds of questions about, my background, my career, waxing philosophical on, family and the importance of God and all this stuff. And it was really, he's almost like the same guy off camera as he is on. And yeah, we had breakfast and then I did the show. I think a lot of Jason's regular viewers, you probably didn't hear much new. I kind of hit all my talking points about, the Secret Service sniper waiting 15 seconds to respond, them seemingly botching the autopsy and the toxicology report. We went into the Ryan Ruth stuff, the phony Iranian plots. And yeah, I was pretty much just glad that I didn't have a panic attack or threw up in my mouth or anything. It was a high pressure situation. The night they flew me into Maine, and the night before, I didn't sleep. Got after a plane ride and about an hour and a half winding drive, I got to the hotel and was totally wrecked, brain fried, and feeling pretty nervous about it. But I slept well the night before the show. I felt pretty locked in. There's a couple things I wish I would have said differently, but overall, I'm pleased with the appearance, and uh, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Wow. Yeah, I think anytime you get involved in some kind of high stakes, high pressure thing like that, you're going to look back and be critical of yourself. But as just a person watching it, I thought you came off really well, Ken. It was a great presentation. Obviously, Tucker Carlson was very engaged. It's a wonderful opportunity for you to be seen by more people and for your research to get more attention, for your book to get more attention, and frankly, for this whole entire thing to get more attention. Matthew has been closing in, and I know you have as well, Ken, on some information potentially connecting Thomas Crooks to Plymouth, Massachusetts, and Jack, is it Teixeira? How do we pronounce the guy's last name?
Yeah, that's how you pronounce it, and I'll let Matthew tell the story since he's the guy who did this fantastic research and found kind of this hidden gem here. So yeah, Matthew, tell us what's
Well,
going on.
wait. Before we
Or
get to
sorry.
that, I just want to ask a few more questions about Tucker because we're going to
Okay,
have
yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of time to discuss that. And I want people to join us. Go to commendablecommotion.substack.com and substack.com/Ken Silva. People who aren't already subscribed to Crowdsource the Truth to join us for that in-depth discussion because I know you guys are going to have a lot to talk about there. But there were a few things, Ken, that you were talking about with Tucker Carlson that really piqued my interest and things, as you said, that I knew about, but we're getting close to 2 years since this happened. It's another one of these things that's going to be, so much is going on. There's a war in Iran. There was another assassination attempt. There's all this stuff happening that can distract people. So you had mentioned there was a guy, I forget the name of the guy, who you said was maybe not that bright, who, everybody sees allegedly Crooks running around with a rangefinder. And for some reason, this guy radios our buddy, my good phone friend there, Eduardo Castro, Rafael Eduardo Castro. Why the hell is he calling the counter drone guy about somebody with a rangefinder? What does that have to do with drones?
It makes absolutely no sense. And this is, yeah, the snipers inside the AGR building see the suspicious person with the rangefinder. They text their local counterparts. Eventually, Edward Lenz, who is heading the local command center, sees this text and he calls the Secret Service command center, which was separate, which is weird in and of itself. But he tells a Pennsylvania State Police trooper in the Secret Service command center about this suspicious person with a rangefinder. The PSP trooper then tells the head of the Secret Service command center, Jeffrey Burr, who happens to be the special agent in charge of Buffalo, which is also weird. I don't know what this senior official is doing, just manning the radios outside of his jurisdiction. But then Burr tells Castro verbally, because they're both in the command center, and then Castro calls the counter sniper response agent, who's the agent on the ground. He's kind of like the gopher for the actual snipers up on the barn. And so this circuitous game of telephone results in one agent doing kind of a half-hearted search, getting turned away at the fence, instead of Jeffrey Burr uh, just putting that over the radios for everybody to hear. And it's absolutely inexplicable. And that's why I've been calling Jeffrey Burr Jeffrey Deaf and Dumb Burr, because he says he didn't hear anything about a suspicious person. And he said and we know he didn't put anything over the radios. And it's very, very frankly suspicious.
I agree. I'm suspicious of everything to do with Rafael Eduardo Castro. Matt, any of your research touch on the allegations that Thomas Crooks flew a drone that day? I really have seen no evidence that Crooks flew a drone.
Well, the thing that did strike me as very strange was the thing that Ken pointed out in some other shows, and it was so strange that I mentioned it on Jake Hanrahan's show a couple of months ago about and again, technical errors happen. So I don't know what to make of it. I'm not a very tech savvy person, but a drone was being flown apparently by Thomas Crooks. The counter drone technology wasn't working from the in the local area, and then Thomas Crooks took the drone down, and then maybe 15 minutes later, the counter drone technology started working. Now, technology is a bit of a tricky thing. I've never used a drone in my life, but it certainly was an unfortunate coincidence, and I mean, so many things went wrong that day on July 13th, 2024. So, yeah,
But
I don't know what to make of that, but it's
but this whole
yeah.
story of Thomas Crooks puts up a drone, et cetera, how do we know that other than testimony from the very suspicious people that we're talking about, Castro? And they said that in testimony in Congress, but couldn't they have easily lied? I do have quite a bit of experience with drones. And the fact is, they are a bit like your computer. They have MAC addresses, IP addresses, GPS devices in them. Anything that happens with a drone is recorded and could be reproduced. Now, it's not like they showed us that photograph on the roof of some little, looks like a garage door opener that they said was going to set off a bomb or something like that. I never saw a drone controller. I never saw a DJI Mavic or any kind of, where is the drone? Why don't they say, here's Thomas Crooks' drone, here's his rifle, here's his garage door opener, here's his Hyundai keys. We haven't seen any of that, Ken, have we?
No, we certainly haven't seen proof that Crooks flew a drone. We do know a drone was flown because the Gateway pundit, some reporter accidentally, she was filming or at the same time, and they saw the drone in the background. This kind of went, you probably remember it, Jason. This went viral like 5 days after, where like, oh, the Gateway pundit reporter accidentally captured the drone. But of course, anybody could have been flying that drone. So we know a drone was flown around that time, and that's pretty much it.
Well, but not only that, I mean, Ken, I know you've seen this, but Matthew, have you seen or heard my phone call with Castro about the drone? Because he seemed very nervous. And I believe there was a drone flown that day, but not by Thomas Crooks. I think there was a drone flying around doing electronic surveillance, perhaps receiving a communication from an infrared signal in the window at American Glass Research. And, these drones can be used for a lot of things. I think people have a limited understanding of what drones are doing and what they're capable of. A lot of people like John Cullen think they're firing precision rifle rounds at Charlie Kirk. I don't believe that's happening. I mean, it's possible, but that would be a big, heavy aircraft. I think what we had there was a very small drone doing some type of electronic surveillance and perhaps acting as a relay of some sort. But, did you ever hear that phone call, Matthew?
I did. It gave me a chuckle. I know that you played it both for us a long time ago, and it gave me a chuckle. I mean, I won't comment on individuals like Castro. I don't really know much about him. I wouldn't say, oh, I think such and such a thing is suspicious or anything like that. I don't know. You know more than me about that side of it, about the drones, etc. It sounds like you know more about drones and how they work than I do. You've used them quite a bit yourself, have you, Jason?
Yeah, I have. For a short time after my company 21st Century 3D closed, I was the CEO of an aerial cinematography company called AeroCine. And at the time, we developed the world's most powerful heavy lift drone, and we used it on a film in Dubai. It was used on an IMAX movie, and that company is now defunct. But we were, this was about 2014. We were very early on involved in drones, and I own a DJI, little mini, just a hobbyist drone. And I keep up with it. I'm not going to say I'm an expert on the order of somebody from Anduril or something like that, or Palantir, but certainly I'm aware that there's a lot of capabilities that drones have. They can be very small. If we're talking about something that's detecting, again, I'm being very specific here because there's elements of evidence that haven't been accounted for. And I know that both of you guys are really sticklers for, here's something concrete, here's evidence, here's where the evidence comes from. And when I go off on these tangents that are maybe a little bit off the path, I know it's potentially outside of the comfort zone for both of you guys. But the fact is, there is a momentary flash of light in the window at American Glass Research. And I went back there to American Glass Research after the fact. This was when my former associate was saying that there was muzzle flash in the window. There certainly was not. I went back there to prove how lights could and would reflect in a window in the way that we saw. I demonstrated that. And the point I'm getting at is there was a momentary, very distinct light in the window on the first floor of American Glass Research. And what would someone be doing in there? What would someone be doing in there with a laser or an LED or whatever it was? I don't think it was being used as a rangefinder per se, but it could have been used to paint a dot on a target that a drone could pick up with a camera. Infrared light, digital cameras are very sensitive to infrared light, and a small drone flying around could have a very sensitive camera on it. That camera could relay a signal through RF to something somewhere else. I'm just saying, there's a lot of indicators that something more complicated than just Thomas Crooks being on the roof was going on that day, and we just don't know what that is. This video shows us this light in the window. There's 6 video frames of this stationary light in the window at American Glass Research, and it's just never been accounted for. Clay Higgins, anybody who went there, what the hell is a person doing in there? This is not just some random piece of equipment. And by the way, this thing correlates precisely with the instant the first shot is fired, 6:11 and 33 seconds. That time comes from the time of day time code on Right Side Broadcasting's camera, synchronized to all these police body cams. And so, I mean, again, this is evidence. It's not necessarily, in the official record per se, but it's inexplicable evidence, and I'm very fascinated by this. So the fact that a drone was flying that day, I don't deny. It's this really questionable behavior from Castro, these really dubious claims that it was Crooks flying a drone. No evidence whatsoever associating a drone with Crooks. Ken, did his parents or anybody, we know he was in the Arduino club or the 3D printing club. He made a chess set and things like that. Does anybody talk about him being in the high school drone club? Is he flying drones anywhere else? He's at the gun range.
He was a pretty big tech nerd, and yeah, Matthew might know more about this than me. He was into cryptocurrency, 3D printing. So I would imagine drones were an area of interest to him. We do have FBI records that I think you'll find interesting, Jason, that are kind of related to what you're talking about, or could be possibly. I just retweeted it, so it's at the top of my timeline. Judicial Watch got a 5th round of documents from the FBI in their ongoing FOIA suit. And I think everybody's focusing on the supposed emails between Thomas Crooks and the Butler County Sheriff's Office, which actually turned out to be fake news. Seems like an honest mistake by Judicial Watch. They just kind of misinterpreted the documents. The most interesting one that I found is that a witness saw an unidentified subject in a green shirt and, quote, fatigue pattern pants with a, quote, black camera bag entering the AGR building around 5 p.m. And it looks like this witness is pretty credible, because if you look at the paragraph above it, he talks about the owner of the AGR building, or one of the employees, screaming and demanding that everybody get off the property. He accurately describes that incident and what that guy looks like. So he's right on the money with the AGR guy trying to get everybody off. So I think I would take it seriously, his sighting of this guy with the, quote, black camera bag entering the AGR building. Don't know what to make of it, but it sure is intriguing, and I thought you would think so too, Jason.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Ken. You know me well by this point. And the thing that jumps out at my mind, can you guess? What makes the person think it's a camera bag? That seems oddly specific, rather than just saying the guy was carrying a black bag. It almost suggests that this witness, why would he say it's a camera bag? Did he see this person using a camera elsewhere? Is the guy, is he an AC? He recognizes a camera bag versus a gun bag or a utility bag or a tool bag. Like, what makes it a camera bag specifically? I'm curious to know.
I would imagine it was just one of those satchels you have over your shoulder, as opposed to, a backpack or something like that.
It's an
But
interesting detail, though. The other point, and this brings me back to your Tucker Carlson interview, you mentioned that there were a number of people spotted around the AGR building and around the grounds that day, either dressed like crooks or looking like crooks. I think Tucker even asked you, he was trying to establish the timeline of when Crooks was first spotted next to the building, I think, again, with the rangefinder, and you pointed out this really puzzling anomaly that somebody actually photographed him across the campus walking among that little vendor area. I've been over there to the Butler Farm Show Fairgrounds a few times, as you have as well, Ken. It's not a small area. Walking on foot, it takes some amount of time to go from that entrance over to the AGR building. This guy's walking all around. What do we know about that?
yeah, so you're referring to the first supposed sighting of Crooks or another suspicious person at 426 by one of the snipers in the AGR building. He's leaving to go home, and he tells his two counterparts inside, he texts them, hey, there's this guy sitting on a park bench looking up at the windows. He knows you guys are up in there. Just, kind of keep an eye out. This could be suspicious. And also, there was another local cop by the barns closer to the stage who saw the same thing. And then this was initially reported as the first sighting of Crooks in all the official media, as well as some early congressional records. But then this cell phone footage of Crooks, or somebody, I know Jason doesn't think it's Crooks, but somebody walking on the other side of the site at that exact same time. So obviously, one person can't be in the same place at two different places at the same time. And yeah, what was I going to say about that? I guess that would have probably been a good time to mention Maxwell Urich, which one thing I kind of forgot to mention on Tucker. Because he plays into my theory about multiple crookses just to confuse witnesses as well as the police who were responding. But yeah, that's pretty much the upshot of what happened there. And the other thing, the other thing I was going to say, sorry. So the FBI, its timeline they put out a couple months ago, they gave to Fox News. They said Crooks actually flew his drone at 350 to 401, and then he drove his car to the other side, and that's how he was able to get out and walk. I have talked to a lot of rally goers there, and they say there was no parking available at the time.
No.
There's 10,000 people packed into that small
Yeah.
little area.
And there's one 2-lane road. You're not driving a car around there. It's going to be faster to walk, and it's not fast at all. Sorry to interject there, Ken.
No,
and just the one last thing I want to say before we turn it over to Matthew, and I want him to tease what we're going to be talking about in the second segment. But the important thing to keep in mind, guys, unlike, 9/11 or the JFK assassination or any of these other events where there seems to be a lot of conflicting information, things that people would call conspiracy theories, etc. This incident really was the first one that happened smack dab in the middle of the AI revolution, where people did have access to even phone apps that could do very convincing facial replacement. Now, that technology has been around for a while. The first use that I know of it was in the film Titanic. But obviously that was a $200 million movie, and it was actually quite primitive in that it was used in some of the scenes where they're escaping from the ship. But now what I'm saying is any person can take anybody's face in a phone app and apply it to a video and very convincingly make one person look somewhat like another. So it's just something to keep in mind as we consider all of these angles. And before we make our way over to the sponsor exclusive segment, I want to ask Matthew to come in and tell us what it is that he has found that links Thomas Crooks, potentially, allegedly, to Plymouth, Massachusetts, and maybe this guy, Jack Teixeira. Remind us, first of all, who he is, and then give us a lead in, and then we'll head over and talk about it in depth.
Well, first of all, this is a Nebraska hat, not a MAGA hat, just in case anyone worries about that. But in terms of Jack Teixeira, Ken also is very good at Teixeira's background. But Teixeira was in the Air National Guard in Massachusetts, and he was quite young. But he had a lot of access. He had a lot of access to sensitive material. His, I believe, stepfather was in the Air National Guard's intelligence wing. Not that that had necessarily anything to do with Teixeira's level of access. It's a bit of a mystery about how such a young man had access to so much sensitive material, but he was in a sensitive position, so you know. Now, in terms of Teixeira, why he's so infamous around the world, and I remember, I think, when his story or the Teixeira scandal happened a few years ago. He leaked sensitive military documents onto Discord, the app, and in chat rooms and that kind of thing. According to the FBI, some of the people in the Discord chat may have been foreign nationals, which maybe raised some concerns about who he was giving this information to specifically. Um, Teixeira seemed like maybe a bright young kid. I'm not sure how clever he was, but he seemed to have an interesting career. So it's a pity he blew it by leaking sensitive secrets via Discord. I think one of the foreign nationals was from Serbia, according to the FBI. Um, but whether or not that Serbian was working for, say, Serbia's intelligence services, we just don't know at this point, I don't think. But to share it, a bit of a history of making some violent statements when he was in high school. He was sort of maybe half jokingly, half seriously talking about, committing acts of violence, and that obviously raised red flags for people in the school. And that was a few years before this whole debacle with his behavior on the Discord. So he had a few issues, it seems clearly, and my understanding is, I think Ken brought this to my attention initially, that the Discord group wasn't really the most serious of Discord groups. If I remember correctly, it was sort of almost like a kind of jokey sort of, oh, we're so cool, and it may have just been him trying to puff up his own image where he'd photocopy these documents and then put them on Discord. I can't remember. I think what was the name of the group he was in on Discord? What was it? Thug Shaker 69, I think, or something. Was it something like that?
Yeah, it was named after like a gay porn channel. I'm glad you
What?
didn't make me say the names.
Well, that's there you go. And so to share, I think he then got 21 years in prison after that. So he was so that's Thug Shaker now with 21 years in prison he's got. So but or to share himself specifically, I mean, of course, but that's who he is. He was from Dighton, Massachusetts, which is a town very near Plymouth, Massachusetts. In fact, in the footage that kind of, went viral or whatever when he was arrested, you can see a tank and these people with guns and, I guess the SWAT team or something, because, this is someone who could be a national security threat, so they obviously took it very seriously, and they arrested him, and there was a helicopter flying overhead videoing the whole thing. It was broadcast all over the news internationally of him being arrested outside his house in Dighton, Massachusetts. Dighton, as I said, very near Plymouth, Massachusetts. Plymouth, Massachusetts, as your listeners and viewers may be aware, is where, according to the Heritage Foundation, a phone associated with Thomas Crooks pinged at several months before Thomas Crooks' assassination attempt against Donald Trump. So it's a coincidence. Seems nothing more than a coincidence. But then I did some digging, and there was some very odd things happening in Plymouth, Massachusetts.
Well,
at the
let
time.
me halt you right there because I know it's quite a lot of detail to go into, and that's what we're going to discuss right now on our sponsor exclusive segment. So I hope people watching will join us there. It's going to be on commendablecommotion.substack.com, on substack.com/@KenSilva, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and subscribestar.com, and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. We've got a lot to discuss. We'll be back.